We don't need to record right now.
See my slide? All right, everybody can see my slides? Okay, so for the benefit of the group, my name is Zarinah El-Amin, and today we're going to talk about the cultural psychology, the global art of head wrapping. Again, I founded an organization called Beautifully Wrapped, and Beautifully Wrapped looks at the global art of head wrapping from a fashion, tradition, and spiritual perspective. We look at it through those multiple lenses so that we can just get to know one another better as human beings. That is the ultimate goal. So it's not really just about the art. It's pretty, it's beautiful, it's all of that. But I like to use the lens of head wrapping as a way to study more of how we as human beings do this thing, called being human, how we differ, but also our similarities. So Beautifully Wrapped typically has a calendar that we do every year, and we do a big event called our Head Rap Expo, which is on hiatus until I decide to bring it back. But COVID shut everything down, but it was a time for us to all come together. So before we get into the wraps per se, what is underneath the wrap? What is underneath the wrap? When you look at head wrapping, you can't look at it without looking at what first? Hair, right? And so hair is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We know that. Go to Target, go to Walmart, go to any store, and just walk down the shampoo conditioner aisle, right? You're going to see different types for thinning hair, for gray hair, for colored hair, for thick hair, for curly hair, for straight hair. All of this money going into fixing and making appropriate and beautifying that stuff that grows out of our head, right? Billions of dollars go into this. Look at the number of salons. Look at the number of things that just when people are trying to fix something that they don't quite like about their hair, right? So billions of dollars goes into hair. And today we're going to talk about those people that cover it up though, and what that's like. But I wanted to show you some pictures. And when you go through these pictures very quickly, I want you just to see what feelings come up for you surrounding the different hairstyles. What assumptions do you make when you see someone in your physical space or on TV that looks like these people? All right, so let's go through. I want your quick gut reaction. So as you see, right, there's so many different ways that human beings wear their hair. Now, this particular slide, I stopped on this slide because in the Native American traditions, some of them, not all, but in many of the Native American traditions, there is a practice to grow the hair long, down to the earth. The earth is seen as the mother, the sustenance that supports us all. And growing the hair long, not cutting it, shows your reverence to the earth, also shows your health, how healthy you are. It's a demonstration to the outside world of your health, as well as your reverence to that which is the source of sustenance for us all. So in some communities, it's not just I'm going to wear short hair, right? It's where you're growing your hair long for a much deeper reason. And so for those who seem to think that, it's not a big deal, I talk about this because I remember reading articles about a child going down to kindergarten, first day of kindergarten, down in Texas, I believe it was. And he was a Native American child, had been growing his hair since birth to 5 years old, going to kindergarten, first day, so excited, right? Walks into the school and they're like, hey, little boy, your hair is inappropriate for a school setting. You need to cut that. And they literally cut the kid's hair at the school. And there were questions like, is this assault? It's not a big deal. Some people say it's not really a big deal. It's just hair. It grows back. But for some people around the world, hair has a much, much, much deeper meaning. It's not something that you just cut off every 2 weeks, right? So we have to look at that. And then look at what happened recently, right? Like everybody's seeing this. You all know it. You had to live under a rock to not hear about this. Even if you don't watch the news, you heard, right? So Jada Pinkett Smith at the Oscars, comedian up on stage, makes a joke about her hair. Her husband then gets up and, slaps the guy. And it's like this huge conversation, right? About lots of things. But I want to focus on it from a hair perspective. The joke was about her hair, and look at the aftermath of that, right? Hair. And so when we think about something where we can say, oh, it's just short, you could grow it, you could cut it, whatever. Hair has so many meanings for human beings all over the globe. All over the globe, it has so many different meanings. So when we're talking about head wraps, we cannot divorce the conversation on head wrapping from the conversation and the meanings that we assign to hair. They go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. And so when we look at how people view it, how people associate their own sense of self-worth, and you may think about this for yourself. Have you ever had a bad hair day and maybe you didn't want to go outside, or when you were younger, like, I'm not going to school, my hair is messed up, how did that feel? How did you feel in that? Or did you see somebody whose hair was a little bit different that you made assumptions about them based on their hairstyle, right? So we have to look at all of those meanings that get associated to hair. Now, let's look at head wraps. All right, let's look at head wraps. I look like this, so you can see what I look like, right? And I remember a lot of times in the beginning, and I've been doing these workshops for now really over 15 years. It has to be literally probably about 20 years or so that I started doing wraps. I first began wearing head wraps in college. So I shouldn't say actually since I was growing up, I grew up in an African-American Muslim household. And so my mother and all of her friends wore wraps a lot, frequently. And so when I was a child, I used to wear my hair covered in different ways. And it wasn't really until I got to college and I was walking across campus at Howard University in Washington, D.C., the Mecca, right? So I was walking across campus at Howard, and I used to see other Muslim girls like on campus, and I could identify them by the covering of their head, right? I could identify them through their scarves. And so I was like, oh, what would it feel like to kind of like be or to be identifiable just by my dress, right? Just by our dress. And that's what dress really does. Like dress can help, or I should say dress is one of the ways where you can communicate to the outside world without opening your mouth, right? You put on a power suit, you're walking out there with your power suit, you feel like $1 million, right? When you put on some jogging pants or you put on something that's like a workout, you may look like somebody that really goes for their health and they're focused on health. So your dress communicate to the outside world things that you think, things that you believe, values that you hold, right? And so for me, I wanted to kind of just see what was it like to kind of be in a space or in a place where people would see something that I have on and associate me with a particular group. So I started covering my hair every day in my junior year of college. And since then, I'm 42 years old. So I was maybe 19-ish, something like that, 19, I think, because I graduated at 21. So like 19, I was, wearing my hair cover every day. So it's been over 20 years, that I've been doing this. And I've noticed for myself, the ways that people interact with me just through what's on my head, just through what's on my head. So right now, I want to kind of go through a global look at head wraps. And we're going to start in the place where most people assume that I'm from if they don't know me, or they assume that I have some type of connection to it just by looking at me, right? So we're going to start on the continent of Africa. We're going to start here. And I want you to imagine now that you are traveling with me. I take women on trips around the world, so you're going to pretend you're on one of my trips. We've gone to Morocco, we've gone to Indonesia, we've gone to Senegal, and now you're going to pretend that you're on one of my trips, right? So first class, and we're going to go to the continent of Africa. And we're going to look at some of the different styles on the continent of Africa. And while we're there, I want you to see the images, and then I want you to kind of look at the fabric, if you will, and see if you can kind of guess what type of fabric that may be, how thick it may be, how heavy it may feel, you know, and what it comprises, what the wrap comprises of. All right, we ready? Okay. So we're going to start down in South Africa. And South Africa, if you look at the scarf that's on their head, right? It's a sort of heavy woven type of fabric. It's a heavy woven type of fabric. And so some people may say, like, why would they put that hot thing on their head? You know, it's hot down there. They got this hot thing on their head. And why would we do that? And so for some, it can be just a form of regular protection. You know, you see the young lady carrying the basket on her head, right? So if I'm putting a weight on my head, I don't want to put that directly on my head. I want some type of barrier, some type of protection. And so a wrap in that sense can be some type of protection, right? It can be a protection. Also, it can be a way to adorn the face, right? Adorn the face. And you're going to see different styles of wrapping as we go along. So this is Southern Africa, right? In particular, South Africa. So now let's go on over to West Africa. So now we're in West Africa. You can think of what country could you be in? Could be in Nigeria, right? You could be in Ghana. You could be in the Gambia. You could be in Ivory Coast. But in this particular picture, you are in the country of Senegal. All right, you're in the country of Senegal. So this is an image that I took after one of these celebrations, Islamic celebrations called Eid. So this was one of the two big festivals in Senegal. And this is right after the prayer. So everyone is prayed at the mosque, and then they came out into the street. And this was right after the prayer. So the dress that you see, this image here is maybe about, my son was 3, so it's 12 years ago. So the style that you see here, the clothing, if you will, is what they were wearing 12 years ago. Very similar to today, but as you know, styles change and move around. But if you look at their scarves, are they the same as the ones from South Africa? No, right? South Africa, the fabric was thick in here. And here in West Africa, Senegal in particular, this fabric is much thinner and is able to kind of flop down, like you see the indigo color, the lady with the blue on the side, right? So styles differ, and they range based off of the region in which you come from. You would very rarely see someone that looks like the lady in South Africa with that heavy woven fabric. You typically would not see that in a Senegal or Nigeria or Gambia. You would not see that particular style. Saw the continent of Africa, right? But that particular type of style is not used here because that fabric is not popular there. In West Africa, most of the fabrics are wax cloth, which is like what I have on my head here, on my head. Now, in that region, you also often see many women will take another piece of scarf, like I have here. This is a scarf that came from Senegal on my last trip. It's a huge scarf, like 1 yard, 2 yards. And I'll make my video bigger when I get to the demonstrations. But this particular scarf is huge. And these are the scarves that you see them sort of taking and then just wrapping around, right? And it gives them, in particular, an extra layer of modesty, if you will, for their dress, and just adds a little bit of pizzazz. It adds a little bit of pizzazz. All right, so that's Senegal, okay? Now we're gonna fly on over first class, and we're gonna go over to Nigeria. So we're still in West Africa right now. And if you look at this style in Nigeria, is totally different than the style in West Africa, totally different than the style in South Africa. So here we have one of the terms used for a particular type of head wrap called the gele. And Yoruba is one of the tribes in Nigeria. Of course, you know, Africa is made up of 55 countries. And in each of those countries, you have different tribes, different languages. In Nigeria, there are tons of different tribes and different languages. Yoruba is one, and gele is the word that they use for this particular type of wrap. And so the gele is like what I call the mother, if you will, of all head wraps, because it's big, it's tall, it's voluminous, it's sculptural. I mean, you are not coming in quiet when you're wearing a gele walking into a wedding. You know what I mean? Like you come in and you own your space. You come in and it's like, woo, look at her, right? She got that 3-foot tall thing on top of her head. So here I have a gele, and I think I'm gonna stop the share real quick and I'll go back just so that it can make the video bigger. So stop the share, there we go. Okay, so here I have, you know, this gele. And the gele can be made of different types of fabrics, but this particular fabric is like a damask. And so it's stiff already. And you hear that? The fabric itself is really kind of stiff. And that's what gives you that height without a lot of weight. So when you're making a gele, you can have a lot of height without a lot of weight. So I'm gonna switch over and put this one on. Let's see if it'll go over my braids though. I don't know if I can get, you hear that? The fabric starts off just like any other piece of fabric. And you wrap it around. Woo-wee! You wrap it around. Almost. Okay. Nope. I gotta figure out which way. There we go. So you wrap it around. Aye. And if you notice, once you create a gele, you are able to take it off and put it back on just like a hat. So the style that you see on my head now was created for me and is pinned. So if you look very closely, you'll see that there are pins all throughout this. And that is what's keeping it secure. So it's not sewn, it's just folded and crimped and then pinned together. And the pins is what keeps it going. So you saw like the ladies with the 3 feet tall wraps, right? You can't get into your car. You can't get into your car with that wrap on. So you have to be able to get to your destination, take your wrap out, bing, put it on, then walk into your space, right? Right, because you can't drive, you can't get into the car with that on. So it has to be pre-tied, and then you're able just to take it and put it on. And so once you have your gele, you can keep it like that. Or if you don't want to keep that style, then you can take it down and then you can, lay it flat and retie it again. But the gele industry is a big industry. If you ever seen any of the pictures from Nigerian weddings, or if you watch any of the Nigerian movies or such, like you'll see these fabulous, fabulous wraps. Not every woman knows how to tie them beautifully herself. So there's a huge industry, just like the hair industry with stylists and barbers and all of that. There's a huge tying industry where people tie scarves, tie gele for weddings and for big events and for big functions and such. So when you're putting it on, it sounds like a tornado. You can't hear anything. But the reason I love them is because they really make a huge statement, but they're super duper light. They're super light. All right, so let me share again. Okay, so that's the Gaelic. So now let's look at men for a second. Here, we're gonna fly again, and you're over now in Niger, in Mauritania, in that type of region, right? And in that region, you have men who are called the Tuareg men. That's one of the names of their particular type of nomadic tribe. There are nomadic people historically that moved between Mauritania, Niger, Morocco, all that region, right? And in that region, it's desert. You have sandstorms and such. And so turban became a part of their everyday normal dress. You know, it's just a part of their everyday normal dress. And this particular color, the blue, the indigo blue, which is one of my favorite colors, I absolutely love it. That indigo, that rich blue, is one of the signature colors of this region. And the men there, and the women as well, people who are familiar with that region, who know it intimately, can tell just by the way that someone ties that scarf, they're able to tell like where the person comes from. And also through the richness of the color. Is it a lighter blue? Is it darker blue? All of that give them clues. Because if you remember what I said, our dress, as well as head wraps, can communicate to the outside world without you even opening your mouth, right? So someone can see him and say, oh, he's from such and such tribe because of the way that he tied that and folded that over and the particular type of beads that he used to adorn his wrap. Oh, this dude's from that tribe, right? We on the outside, I just say, oh, it's all Tuareg. You know, I don't know all of the nuances, but the people in that region do. The people in that region do. So very practical, right? Very practical in a sense. Now, here is a scarf, Tuareg type of scarf. This one's from Morocco. And if you look at it, it's 1 yard. They sell it by the meter, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 5 and a little bit, right? So it's about maybe 6 meters. This fabric is about 6 meters. So that's 6 meters of fabric that's wrapped around. And again, for people who are like, it's hot, when the summertime comes here, we call it hot girl summer, right? Where everybody's taking their clothes all off. And when you go to hot regions around the world, typically they are covered up because they know that the sun, you know, it can be hot and the sun can cause long-term damage, all those types of things. So they typically cover up in the deserts and such. And this is one of the types of scarves that they use. So men and women wrap, right? It's not just women. Here's a brother in Tunisia, a shepherd, and that's his style. Got his little wrap on. So now let's look at Eastern, like Europe and such. Right now, of course, you know, Ukraine is in the news, and we send our love to everyone who is suffering all around the world. And we also pray that the oppressors like get it together, you know, like start caring for other humans just like you would care for your grandchild. You know what I mean? Like don't put your grandchild any higher than those other children that are running for their lives now. So here we have Czech Republic, right? And this is a traditional folk costume there. If you look at the traditional clothing, most of them from around the world usually include some type of wrap, some type of head covering. Here's Bulgaria. And Bulgaria, you know, is very close to Ukraine. Turkey. This is a popular Turkish hijab type of style. India. And this scarf here is, lots of times they can use upwards like 12 meters and such. So a lot of fabric. And this particular style is like Rajasthan. All right, Vietnam. How many of you all thought about Vietnam when you thought about wrapping? Did you think about Vietnam at all? Guatemala, the UAE. So, you know, the UAE, let me talk real quick about women. I may have another image, I'll see if I do. But a lot of times when people talk about wrapping and they talk about hijabs, there's like a predominant narrative of Muslim women being oppressed by wearing a hijab, right? But no one ever talks about the fact that when you go to the Middle East, you see men wearing scarves all day long. Nobody says they're oppressed. They only say that the women are oppressed. And so you have to kind of look at some of the cultural, how would you say, prejudices that come up around certain groups, and why you put certain prejudice around certain groups and not others, when head wrapping is ubiquitous. It's found all over from so many different, cultures, so many different places. Here's the Sikh, for example. The Sikh, we say Sikh, oftentimes it's really pronounced Sikh, right? So this is in India. And what I love about the Sikhs is that when the religion came to fruition, they decided to adorn the turban, and to adorn the turban to demonstrate to everybody in their region that we are Sikhs, right? And we believe in equality, and we believe in, the oneness of us all. And so the turban gave them a way to showcase their faith without having to always open their mouth. They also renounced their tribal names, if you will, or clan names, and adopted one of the two names, Singh. Singh is one of them that they adopted, which was used to try to get rid of the caste system. We know India has this huge caste problem. Really, the whole world has this huge caste problem. But they used the turban to demonstrate that they were not about that caste life. And they also renounced their other clan names and adopted the name Singh to bring about equality. So in this case, the wrap, the turban, showcases their beliefs, right? So the Sikhs do not cut their hair. They have, just like I showed you the Native Americans earlier, they believe in growing the hair long, so they do not cut the hair. So as you grow longer, your beard, for the men, they'll take it from down here and wrap it up into the top of the turban. And for the hair, is put up into a bun, like on top of the turban as well. So you'll notice that, it'll usually see like a bump right there, and that's where the hair is. Interestingly, the Rastafarians do the same thing, just in a different part of the world. So Jamaica, right? Yeah, it started there. Rastafarians, I don't know if it started in Jamaica, but I know Jamaica is actually one of the large cultural spots, if you will, for the Rastafarian movement. But look at his beard, same thing. They do not cut the hair, they grow it long, and then they wrap it up with a turban. The turban serves to both protect the hair from the elements, dust, and all of that, and also demonstrates their faith as well. All right, we got a few more before we get to some styles. So we just left Jamaica, and where are you now? You look at his white turban, so crisp, so fresh and so clean, right? So where are you now? Is it Iraq? Is it Iran? And I could say, yes, it's Iran by way of Dearborn, which is, down here close to Detroit. So he is an Iranian cleric down here in Dearborn. His name is Muhammad Elahi, who is, he's actually one of my other clients. He's working on a book. We're working together on his book around interfaith relations and using dialogue to build love and respect and appreciation for different cultures and such. So his turban demonstrates that he is an Islamic scholar. It's tied in a particular way, right? It demonstrates he's an Islamic scholar. He's a Shia Islamic scholar, and it's white. If it were black, then we would know that he has a direct lineage somehow in his lineage going up to the Prophet Muhammad, the last prophet of Islam. We would know that he was somehow related in his lineage. So the color in this case can denote things to people who are aware, right? So from the outside, you just see, okay, he must be a Muslim scholar. From those inside, they know a little bit more just based off of colors and such. So that turban there is also tied, and once it is, it's just like a hat, just like this gele. You can just put it on and boop, take it off and change them, change them. So I want to get into some of the styles. So let's talk real quick though about why people cover their hair. We've seen all throughout this little global visual tour, if you will, that people cover in a myriad of ways and myriad of different styles. Sometimes it's just for protection, sun, dust, cold, right? Sometimes it's for religious reasons, like the Sikhs, like the Mother Teresa, like Islam, like the Jewish women. Sometimes it's for modesty, fashion, loss of hair, cancer, alopecia, cultural expression, social status. All of those are reasons why people may decide to cover their hair, or why a particular culture covers their hair. Now, I'll tell you, as I told you, I grew up in a Muslim household. And so I was reflecting this morning on the fact that many Muslim women cover their hair, not all, but many Muslim women cover their hair, as well as many Jewish women, cover their hair. In Judaism, traditional Judaism, you cover your hair when you get married, right? So when you get married, that's when you begin to wear the tickle, the scarf, and you cover your hair when you're married. So again, it's like a wedding ring, right? I know somebody's married based off of their ring in the synagogue or walking around, somewhere, Tel Aviv, whatever. I can see who is married just by what's on their head. So the scarf in that sense is communicating marriage status. In Islam, the women wear their hair covered after they get into puberty. So once you hit puberty, you cover your hair. And when you get into menopause, you can take it off if you so choose. So I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about that in the relationship to the Jada instance and the Will Smith slap and all of that. And I was thinking about like how big of a deal it was for all of this hair and like the $1 billion industries and such, all this money and energy and everything that goes into hair. Some people spend like 2 hours, doing their hair every single day. That's a lot of time. And so I was thinking about these religions that remove the focus from hair. Like Islam is like, look, babe, when you hit puberty, we're going to cover that up. So, nobody has to see how long your hair is, how thick it is, how short it is. Nobody sees any of that. So you focus on your Lord, you focus on what you're doing, and we're going to remove that thing which has so much focus globally, right? And I just thought that was so interesting. And in Judaism, they're like, look, you married, all right, cover it up. We're going to denote that, let everybody else know that you're married. You're off the market. Nobody else can holler at you anymore. But we're also going to remove that thing that causes a lot of stress for a lot of people. So I find that extremely interesting. And then I was looking at, for the yogis who practice yoga and who meditate and really focus on cleansing their hearts and getting closer to that spiritual nirvana and really working on making inner peace a regular part of their lives, right? And many of them, when you reach a certain level of practice, you'll find that many yogis will oftentimes start to wear all white, which is a pure color, if you will, right? And then they also begin to wrap or all white or cottons, like just natural fibers. Or they also began to wear the turban, and they say is to physically realign their skulls, because your brain is made up of a lot of different, almost like the earth is made of the tectonic plates. Your brain's, the skull, if you will, is also made up of like bones that can shift and move. So when you're tying your head, you're literally like keeping your head together, physically. And they also use it to keep in the positive energy that they're building and block out the negative energy outside, which I find absolutely freaking like, just divine. And I always keep saying this, but I really do. I would really want to study sometime and see if some of the scientists or neurologists or something can do some studies to see like what are the effects of wearing wraps on the actual brain functions, like what's happening in the brain when people meditate and wear wraps versus meditate and don't wear wraps, like what's really happening. I think that would be absolutely fascinating. All right, so I'm gonna stop the share, and I don't know if there are any questions. Andy, I'm gonna do some styles, but if there are any questions, let me know, and I will answer any of them as well.
It looks like there was one on the Q&A. Let me see. It's this is from Jenna. It says, if you do not belong to any of the cultures that wear a head wrapping, is it inappropriate to wear one?
No, it's not inappropriate at all. You know, as I mentioned, many people wrap just for fashion, just for protection, just for, I just like the look of it, you know what I mean? And that's perfectly fine. If you're wearing a particular style that usually is associated with a particular group and you're out in the public space, you have to recognize, though, that someone may assume or associate you with a particular group if that style has been associated with that group, right? And so if you're okay with going out and people saying, hey, you know, why do you have such and such on? You like a Jewish woman, you know, or hey, are you sick? You know what I mean? Like, are you a part of that religion? You have to be ready to answer those types of questions or such. But if you're just wearing like a regular little style, you know, now go for it. You know, do you. Do whatever you like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to do a quick style. I'm going to recreate the style that I had on when I first came on earlier today. So this, what I have in my hand is a half of yard, 1 yard, 2 yards. So it's about 2 yard piece by half. Right? So, you know, when you buy a piece of fabric at the fabric store or such, it usually comes like this, right? You buy a piece of fabric, it comes like this. And so what I do is just cut it in half. So you cut it in half the long way. So you kind of end up with 2 pieces, and that's what this is here. So I'm going to take this. Let me see. Hold on. All right, so what I've done, let's go back. So I have my scarf and I have it in the middle, right? So I'm in the middle here. And what I'm going to do is cross. And for the style I had on earlier today, I'm going to cross and just pull down. Bam, so that's number 1. Oh, and that's cute right there by itself. I could be floppy flop if I wanted, but we're gonna tie it up. So all I did was just cross and then stop. Then I take the other side and I cross and I put it into the little hole at the top. Take the other side, flip it up and stick it in. And then that's the first style. So if you see that little strip, if you will, that white strip, I can just, you know, move that over. Andy, is there anybody in that room with you?
Yes, we have a 4 folks who are in, and one who's in actively trying.
Turn it around. Turn the camera around so I can see them.
Sure.
Please.
Sorry, it's
I think the background is
Let me change that real quick.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll keep doing it while you guys are doing that. So that's the first style. I'm gonna do it. Oh, you got it! Yay! You look cute. Hey, you look cute. Awesome. So this fabric that I'm using right now, or this style, I should say, one of the reasons I like this style is because you can use almost any type of fabric. It can be a thinner fabric, it can be a thicker fabric, and the style is still going to work for that. So the fabric that I have, you know, is a little bit thick because it's a cottonish type of fabric, but it also still works, you know, works well for that. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make a little ball in the front this time. So now one quick note about this style. When you're doing any styles, you want to take into account like how your hair is styled. So if you have short hair and you want something that has like a lot of volume, then you have to use a fabric that's going to give you that volume, or you need to add something underneath the finished scarf to give you that volume underneath. So sometimes you'll see someone that may like have recently cut all their hair off, and they will take another scarf, wrap it up, stick that inside. I've seen some women use those loofahs, you know, like the ones you take a shower, the ones you get from the dollar store or whatever, like those plastic loofahs. They'll put that in there and give them extra body as well. So there's a number of different things you can do. All right. So now this time, what we're going to do is still cross in the front, bring it all the way down. And instead of flipping it up and folding it in, this time we're going to twist our side. Take one side and twist it. Yep. And then we're going to come around and we're going to tuck it underneath. So I just took that around and then I tucked it underneath in the bottom. You can tuck, you can also, you know, use like the pins. Remember I told you earlier, you can use like the dressmaker pins. You can use these things too, and they can pin you up. So take that, and then I'm going to take the other side, twist it. And this is like, you can get as funky as you want or as simple as you want. You can put it up here if you want to, pin it up here, pin it to the back, wherever you want. I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to tuck it in. Tuck it in as well. Yeah, twist and tuck, twist and tuck. You got it. Yep. Yep. So if it feels like it's going to slip out or such, then the ways that you make things tight with wrapping, as I said, are either pinning or twisting, tucking, or yeah, those are them. So at the top, I'm just going to smash that down. So this can be a really, really elegant look, or it can be super, you know, funky depending on the fabric. If you take a nice little silk scarf that you have, right, and you just tie that up, twist it, put it to the back, you can make a really little elegant Marilyn Monroe-ish type of style. If you look back at the ladies, you know, in the, what was that, 60s, 50s, don't get me to lying about the dates because I'm terrible with dates, but a lot of times they would have like those nice little silk scarves that just added just a little extra touch, you know, if you will. So, yep. Okay, good. Yeah, I think do the first style with that one. Since the edges are shorter, yeah, flip it up and then, yeah, you got it. Perfect. So with this base, with just like the bringing it to the front, you can, there's so many different stuff. You can come up here and create the little ball at the top. The same, you know, it's the same exact fabric, but you're just wrapping it in a different way. There is no wrong way to wrap. There is no wrong way. It is an art. It is just an expression. So you can do whatever you want to do, right? Whatever you feel like you want to do, you can go ahead and do that way. So.
Zarinah?
Yes.
There was a question here about what's the smallest size scarf you might be able to use?
It really just depends on how big your head is. You know, my head is kind of big. So I typically, my smallest would be kind of like a bandana size, you know, like those regular bandanas that you see. That's typically the smallest that I wear. And what I do with those, I don't seem to have one right here, but what I do with those is that I'll just fold it in half. And this is huge, right? This is huge, but I'm just gonna say, this is what I do. I fold, so I fold it in half, and then I will, because I don't like bandanas. To me, I don't like the way it looks, but I fold it in half, and then I just make a little at the base of my neck, right? I hope that made sense when I did it. I'll do it again, but just put it on like a regular scarf. Right? You make the square triangle, make the square scarf a triangle, put it on, and then tie it to the base. And then sometimes I'll just take the edges and kind of put them to the side there, and I'll use that as the side. So if I have a square scarf, oftentimes I'll just do something like this. Just slide it on, put it to the side, and put it there. Now I've had some women like tell me like it's gonna look like I have cancer, and anybody that's suffering with cancer, much love and success to you with your journey. But people wear scarves all the time, so I don't really worry about looking like suffering or anything like that. And even if you did, like just own whatever it is that you're doing. I think that's one thing I want to say. When you wear wraps, for some people it can be, if you haven't worn scarves before, when you wear a scarf outside, sometimes people aren't accustomed to how they feel. Because when you walk around in your normal everyday life, you have, whether we know it or not, you have a uniform, if you will, right? You have certain clothes that you put on that you feel comfortable. You have certain things that you wear all the time, and you know how people are going to react to you in the public when you're at the grocery store or whatever. You have a uniform that you wear all the time. And when you go outside of that uniform, just like when somebody gets a new haircut, in the first few days, like they feel a little bit weird because it's just still fresh for them. When wearing wraps, you can feel like that too. Like, oh, I feel a little different. And it may take somebody some time just to kind of get back into their own sense of self when they're out and about in that new way of looking or whatever. But what I tell people, especially for those people who wear it for religious reasons, like Jewish women, when they come into marriage and they start wearing it every day and they feel weird, or Muslim women, when they become Muslim and they want to start wearing the hijab or whatever, they always feel like, well, how do I deal with people who stare at me and such? And I tell them, you have to have your own sense of confidence. Like, don't worry about anybody else. Have your own sense of confidence. Hold your head up and pretend like those women that wear the gele, like the super duper big ones, like you own the space. And when you own your own space and you have it from a sense of confidence and self-awareness and strong self-esteem and self-worth, like it doesn't matter what anybody else says, outside of you or whatever. You do you. You do you. So this is the way that I typically wear a little. So with that one, I would fold it in a triangle. So the way that I folded this one was in a triangle. Yeah, so if it's a square, like fold it into a triangle. Yep. And then put it on your head from the middle to the back. Yep. So if you I was gonna say gypsies, but like if Ukraine, Bulgaria, all of that type of region, all of that region, a lot of times the women, Italy, lots of places in Europe, you'll see the traditional clothing always included some wrap. And oftentimes the elderly now, in the communities, the women also wear some type of scarf. So yeah, just tie it. Yep. And you can leave it down if you want, yes. Or you can tie this up like into a little bun. Just take the ends and tie it up. Just make it tighter pretty much and tie it into a bun. This one is loose, but if I tie it into a bun, I can leave it at the back, or I could also bring it to the side. Let me just do it right. Do it to the side as well. So I see I only have 5 more minutes. So are there any questions that you all have surrounding wraps or surrounding fabrics, anything that I didn't cover that you really wanted to see as well? You can let me know that. And I'll answer the questions, but also I just want to say thank you all as well for coming, for participating, for listening, and for being a part of the Beautifully Wrapped family.
Ask if it's better to use like a natural fabric so you're not so hot. Or...
One of the questions here was, is it better to use a natural fabric so you're not as hot?
Yeah. So I like to use natural fabrics, period. Anyway, but you have to take like your hair into account, right? So if you're using like a satin, which will be a nice cooling type of fabric, or a silk or whatever, if it's sliding off, then you may want to get like a bobby pin and you can like just pin it to your hair, underneath, and do that. Sometimes people, if their scarves are sliding off, sometimes people will use like a little headband, like a regular, headband underneath, and then put the scarf on top, and so that it stays and they don't have to worry about it sliding as much and such. But I typically end on the side of I typically land on using normal regular natural fabrics. I'll say for my hair type, which is like more thick and curly type of hair, our hair tends to dry out a lot faster. So when I'm wearing cotton scarves on the regular, I will put on a satin or a silk scarf underneath. It won't slide off of my hair, right? So I'll put a satin or a silk scarf underneath, which protects my hair and the natural oils in my hair from the cotton, because cotton balls are absorbent, right? So a cotton scarf is going to soak the oil out of my type of hair. A cotton scarf on your hair won't cause a problem in that way, right? You just have to make sure it's not sliding off. So just take into account what kind of hair you have, and then what's going to work, for you when you're doing your styles and such.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, are there any special styles or considerations for those who wear glasses?
Oh, who asked that question? I didn't see that person. I wonder, were they doing styles? Oh, hello, hi. So funny enough, some people, when they wrap the scarves, they'll put it like this, and the scarf keeps the glasses on better for them. But you'll also, before we had like Bluetooth and stuff, you used to have a lot of Muslim women that would wear their hijabs, and then they would use the hijab. And my scarf is not tight enough right now, but they would use the hijab to like hold the scarf and hold the phone in place. So like the scarf became their phone holder, and that was a lot of times. But yeah, if you're wearing glasses, just you can pull it down if you want, and use the scarf to keep your glasses in place if there are some that are sliding off a little bit more. But usually it doesn't make a difference or such. What kind of scarf did you have? Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, a nice square scarf. So yeah, you can do the triangle, to the back or to the front, or also make it a rectangle. It would be a shorter rectangle. So you wouldn't be able to do the twist thing, but you can do the twist thing with the triangle style. So with this, if I were to come to the front, because the ends are long, where's the other one? Okay, there we go. So because the ends are long, so this is the triangle, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tie it up the normal way. So now I can flip this up, and now I can do that same style that I did with the square before. Take this around and tuck it in because I have more length. So you just play around and have lots of fun, and perfect for like super windy days and such. There we go.
We're trying it out over here.
You guys are doing great. It's cute. It's cute. Yep, that's cute. That's a cute.
Yay!
Aw. Well, thank you all so much. Again, my name is Zarinah El-Amin. Our group is Beautifully Wrapped. We've kind of been taking a little hiatus for a while, but next time when we do our big event, we have like about 1,000 people that come for our Headwrap Expo.
Oh my
So
goodness.
next time we do it, I'll send word to the library, and you guys
Please
are welcome
do.
to come down if you like.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so
welcome.
much, Zarinah.
You're welcome. Have a beautiful day, you all.
Thank you, you too. And this will be recorded. So anybody who'd like to watch it, again, we'll post on libraries, Facebook and YouTube pages. So
Beautiful.
all right.
All right. Have a good
Take
day.
care.
Bye-bye.